Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of High Energy Girl. And today's amazing guest is Dr. Wendie Trubow. Dr. Wendie is an MD with an MBA in functional medicine gynecology with a thriving practice at the 5 Journeys and is passionate about helping women optimize their health and their lives. Through her own struggles with mold and metal toxicity, celiac disease, and other health issues, Dr. Wendie has developed a deep sense of compassion and expertise for what her patients are facing. She is the co-author of Dirty Girl, Ditch the Toxins, Look Great, and Feel Freaking Amazing. And we had so much fun. You guys, literally, I'm going to do my blood work with her. Just like a well check. I haven't had any blood work done for a few years. So I resonated with her so much that I'm looking forward to seeing what she finds, so that I can have my health be even stronger. So anyways, you guys, let's go and say hello to Dr. Wendie. Hey everyone, welcome to High Energy Girl, a podcast helping women to age stronger because it is never too late to get fit, be strong, and feel sexy. I'm your host, Tracy Gluhite, health coach and personal trainer and founder of highenergygirl.com. Each week, we will either have a guest interview, which will provide you encouragement or an actionable tip to help you age stronger, or I will do a solo episode. Please also join our awesome Facebook group called High Energy Girls, and I'm looking forward to see you on the inside of that group and hope you enjoy today's show. Give a woman a fish, feed her for a day. Teach a woman to fish, feed her for a lifetime. Teach a woman to fish, end world hunger. Have you ever wanted to help people improve their health journey? Have you thought about coaching people with a keto lifestyle? Would you like to become an integrative health coach? Well, the Institute for Integrative Nutrition, or IIN as we call it, is the largest nutrition school in the country. And in 2011, I graduated from their program and became a health coach. It was completely awesome. We learned over 100 different dietary theories and talk about craziness and confusion. My wish for you is that we can lock arms and create a tribe of health coaches all around the country, all around the world to spread the keto message. If this resonates with you and you would like to look into this option deeper, please go to my blog at highenergygirl.com and click on the link to the right of the homepage. Here you can grab the curriculum guide and see if it inspires you. Since I care so much about my listeners, I negotiated the very best tuition rate for you at IIN. Either you can contact them directly and give them my name, or I will introduce you to a counselor so you can decide if this is a good fit for you and your career goals. Let me know how I can support you in this coaching career opportunity. Hey, Wendie, thank you so much for coming on the show today.
My pleasure, Tracy. Great to be here.
Well, I could not resist after reading the title of your book. I was loving it. So for the listeners that don't know who you are yet, why don't you tell them a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I'm an OBGYN by formal training. I graduated Tufts in 2000, which seems like just yesterday, but was a long time ago. And completed my OBGYN training, spent about 5 years there, and then discovered functional medicine and got completely inspired to do it for patients because it felt just like this huge lack, A lot of people are good with their hands. I was very good at surgery, but a lot of people can do that. Not a lot of people can sort of get to the root cause like I did. And so I transitioned into functional medicine in 2009, and I've been there ever since. So I do functional medicine for women only. So I'm a functional gynecologist because that's my sort of background.
Cool.
And yeah, we have a practice in Newton, Massachusetts, and we just wrote this book because part 2 of my story is that, part 1 is getting diagnosed with celiac at 35. And part 2 is realizing I was sort of ridden with toxins and a complete loyal vessel for all these toxins to take up residence in me. And when I did all the testing, kind of figured it all out, I said to my husband, I'm such a dirty girl. And then I went, oh, we got to write that book because I'm in functional medicine. I walk the talk. I eat organic. I don't drink alcohol. I don't eat sugar. I exercise, blah, 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 right? I do everything right. And yet I was a hot freaking mess. And so if I was that messy, doing all the right things, what does everyone else have who might not be as far along the path as I was?
Okay, so I want to hear about, well, first I want to make a comment and then I want to ask you the question before I forget it is, what do you mean you were a hot mess? Like what exactly symptoms were you feeling? Like how did you realize? And then I want to add that I fired an OBGYN because when I left her little room, and went to the front desk, she took a big swig of Diet Coke.
Oh yeah, no. Those are like, there's a couple categories of things that are like the Antichrist or the devil, and sugar and artificial flavors are both in that category. So no, bad.
Yeah.
So you got
Oh.
to walk the walk, right? Walk the talk. So when I say I was a hot mess, a lot of it I attributed to being perimenopausal. I was, these things we say ourselves. Oh, my mom had this. Oh, everyone in my family has it. Oh, I'm just getting older. Well, I was like, oh, I'm perimenopausal. So maybe that's the problem, because my hair was falling out like a lot, even to the point where I got my hairdresser to be like, oh yeah, because hairdressers are all these cheerleaders and they're like, no, you look fantastic. You're gorgeous. And she was like, no, your hair's falling out. It's thinning. So my hair was thinning. I had a rash on my face that would not quit. And it started as just right under my nose. And my mom's like, oh, you have a little bit of like nasal redness. I'm like, yeah, I know. It was running like crazy. And then it spread down my face. It was like, I had the marionette lines of rash. And then I had a rash under my lip. And then I had a rash under my eyes, on my eyes. And so I was like rubbing. I was always just itchy and inflamed. And then I had weight gain. And I'm pretty like, I would say I'm just pretty even keel. Like I don't have wild swings. This is just how I am. I've been this way for years, and I gained 10 pounds. Like, what's going on? Oh, I must be perimenopausal. Check my hormones, normal. Check my thyroid, normal. What is it? I don't know. Perimenopause, right? And so, and I was fatigued with terrible sex drive and brain fog. But some of that stuff you don't recognize till it goes away. I didn't really realize how fatigued I was until I was like, I am not fatigued. That's kind of cool. But in the moment, I was like, no, I'm pretty good. Right?
Yeah. Yeah. That's interesting. So perimenopausal, a big thing here in California is a lot of my friends have done those hormone pellets.
Yep.
Okay. So you've come from, the Western side more to the holistic side. Did you try those, or where were you with that whole process?
So I think for some women, normalizing, right? We'll have to come back to that word, normalizing. Replacing hormones can be really meaningful and impactful, because it can impact your brain, your mood, your sleep, your weight, your gut, everything. So if your hormones are really out of balance and your adrenals aren't picking it up to balance you, which a lot aren't, because if you're stressed, your adrenals are like, hey, lady, I'm busy. I'm dealing with fight, flight, or freeze here. A lion's about to eat us. Your hormone balance is not a priority if you're stressed.
Yeah.
So for women who are stressed, I think that balancing hormones can be really meaningful and impactful. When I say healthy levels, I'm not looking to make your levels look like a 30-year-old who's going to have a baby. That's too high. I'm making the levels look like a woman who sleeps at night and doesn't have wild mood swings and feels regulated and good in her body, right? So the levels are a lot lower. In terms of pellets, I'm kind of commitment phobic. So I never liked something you would put in someone's body, and then if it was bad, you were stuck with it. So I never got into pellets, only because it just didn't feel right for me. I know a lot of people are doing it. I just I didn't like being stuck with something. So I never prescribed it.
I wish I would have thought about that, because I gained 13 pounds in 3 weeks. I got my period back after not having one, and I started growing hair in all the wrong places.
Right.
So I was like, this sucks. Get it out. Well, too late now,
Yeah. Yeah. I'm about to submit my talk for the American Academy of Anti-Aging Medicine for A4M. I have to submit it today as we speak. And I have commitment phobia. So same thing with pellets. I can't commit to, ongoing hormone levels that if they're not right, you have to wait till it dissipates. It just didn't feel right. So
Yeah.
no.
Okay, so let's finish your story. So
Sure.
you were a hot mess and you're
Yep.
like, nothing I'm doing is clearly working. And then what?
Yeah. And then, I mean, here's the thing. I had done a whole bunch of toxins evaluations on myself, and I'm a bad patient. I'm not, I'm just like, I was like, well, it's 1 point out of range for lead. So am I going to go through a whole treatment protocol for one? And this was like years before. I kind of blew it off. And then I didn't think anything of it, but I heard this report on, I'm kind of backing into the story. So I heard a report on NPR that said that when Notre Dame burned, it released 500 tons of lead into the atmosphere. And the closer you were to Notre Dame, the more likely, you got more lead, and the farther away you were, the less you got. Well, guess what? I was in Notre Dame the week after it burned. We spent a week there. Oh, and that was when I went off the cliff. The month after I came home, hair loss went crazy, weight gain. In a month, I gained 9 pounds, and then the rash flared. So it took a couple months because I didn't hear that report until maybe like end of August. And I had had the exposure in April of
Wow.
that year. And so it took months for me to figure it out. And so this whole time I'm like, what's going on? What could it be? And it's really hard to treat yourself. So I had a little bit of like self-treatment stupidity, because if someone else said it to me, I'd be like, oh, you got a toxic exposure, honey, like something's happening. But for myself, it's hard. And I didn't have a doctor at that point. So I finally woke up and went, oh, it's lead. And it was. My levels were up 25%. And I was clinically reacting. And here's the part that's so creepy, that my mercury level on initial testing was 9, which is just over positive. And I might not have treated that, except the lead had gone up so much that I was like, well, we're going to treat all of this. So I treat all the metals and you retest. As part of it is you test, treat, retest. And I retested and my mercury shot up to 41, and we treat over 8. And so these are the things that you start to uncover, right? Because the toxins are like, what you see is the tip of the iceberg. Because if you're someone like me with not the best detox, I have terrible genes. And so if I'm a bad methylator, and this is one critical way we get rid of toxins, what you see is only the tip of the iceberg. So you start to remove it and then you go, whoa, it's a lot worse than you thought. Ignorance is bliss. That's what I tell everyone. Knowledge is power. Ignorance is bliss. Pick where you fall.
Yeah. And then, okay, so why did your mercury shoot up? That doesn't make sense if you're already treating heavy metals.
It does make sense. So what you think about is someone with not the best detox who has these exposures, you can get rid of things as you're getting them if it's not overloading the system. If you just have this influx of things, or over time it's too chronic and you have too much, your liver, the rest of your body's like, well, this is toxic. We don't want this in the bloodstream. So you store it in your fat and your bones and your brain. So I've had mercury fillings since I was a kid. I no longer do. I actually got them out finally, but I had mercury fillings for 40 years and they're 50% mercury. 50% by weight is mercury. It off gases for life. So if you have silver fillings in your mouth, they're toxic. They need to come out because they continue to expose you. Yeah. So now you think about this layer, like not so good genetic profiles for detox, multi-decade exposure, layer on stress. OBGYN was very stressful. I decided to have 4 kids. I couldn't just have 2. I had to have 4. And they're amazing and I wouldn't change it, but it's stressful, right?
Yeah, of course.
Layer on, we work for ourselves. So you layer on all these things, and then you layer on that we live in this earth, and you can't get from your house to your front yard to your work without being exposed to things. And so the sum cumulative effect of this was that the mercury was being stored. And it's only when you start to open up the floodgates and untangle the detox that's all tangled up that you go, oh, and now that's what's really present. So the numbers shoot way up, which is normal. I always say to people, don't freak out when you get your repeat test, because 95% of the time, maybe more, it's going up. Don't freak. And everyone's like, I remember you telling me not to freak out. I'm still freaking out, but I wasn't surprised.
Wow. How common is this? I mean, like what percentage of women would you say have a level of toxicity that would require a detoxification protocol?
So I was only talking about lead and mercury. There's also cadmium, and you live in California, right? So if you're eating West Coast oysters, you're getting exposed to cadmium. So that's only the heavy metals. Then there's mycotoxins, which are the mold toxins that live in your body and continue to make you sick.
Is that
And
like
then there's,
candida and all that
yeah,
crap too?
candida is a strain of mold, but it's like ochratoxin, gliotoxin, aflatoxin, zearalenone. There's all these different strains, and they ultimately make you sick. And then there's what I call other, the other. So that's like beauty products and gasoline fume additives and plastics and styrene and construction materials and herbicides, pesticides, insecticides, pretty much anything. You know, you look around, you go, oh, certain foods cooked at high temps create toxins. So it's everywhere. So when you say to me, who needs a detox, you do have to get the data to see what bucket you're working on.
Mhm.
But when you put all three buckets together, I would say if you're living on this earth, odds are good you got something you need to take care of. So it's close to 100%. I have a functional medicine practice, so we get the people who want a different approach. So our percentage of metals in the practice is super high, but that group is a specific group that's already been looking for this care. So it's a little bit skewed. You know, it's
Uh-huh.
probably, I don't know, 60% of our practice has it, but that's skewed,
So
right?
it's,
Because
you think it's lower or do you think it's higher?
if we say that our group is a representative group, then it's the same. If we say that our group, it's probably higher out in the general population, because these are the people who are working really hard on their health. And so then you start to peel off, well, who has worked in any kind of industrial activity? You've been exposed to toxins. Often, I mean, mercury is used to make high fructose corn syrup.
Mm.
Right? So you're like, oh, if you eat something with high fructose corn syrup, that has a lot of concentrated mercury in it because it's been boiled down. So there's all these ways that we're getting exposed. So I think it's pretty darn high. It's pretty rare that I'm saying to someone, you don't have any metals. You know, I usually say, oh yeah, we got something we got to take care of.
You know what's crazy is that you know those curly Q light bulbs that everybody's using because they're energy efficient?
Yeah.
Those, if they break in your house, have you seen the cleanup instructions for
No,
those?
no.
Oh my gosh, it's like evacuate the room immediately, open up all windows, do not vacuum it. You need to sweep it into a bag, seal it. Okay. It's ridiculous. So, how
Oh,
many of those do you think are in our landfills and absorbing into our atmosphere and
yeah.
getting into the clouds and the rain and, even like watering down on our organic vegetables or our grass fed cows? I mean,
Yeah.
it's
Well, it's even worse,
ridiculous.
Tracy. It's even worse because, I mean, out in California, when those wildfires happen, they release, I think the estimate was like 90% of the mercury in the air is released by the burning of the forests. And so it comes from these forests are sequestering methyl mercury. When they burn, they release it back out. And then it gets into the water, which gets into the fish, which we eat. It's this forward feed cycle. So it's everywhere. It's horrifying. I hope if you're listening, you're not completely discouraged because it's fixable, but it can be pretty discouraging.
Yeah. It can be. And
Mhm.
most people are completely unaware of it. They are
Yeah.
just completely, clued in. Like they think that the reason their body is having these problems is because they need to take this certain pill
Yeah.
and that's going to solve their problems, no matter what condition it is. I mean, I have so many friends that are just like so asleep
Mhm.
at the wheel that I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, so let me ask you one more question, then come back. We'll come back to the toxicity thing. Is how did you find out about the celiac, and what did you do about that?
Yes. Well, I'm like I said, I'm a bad patient, and I never complained in medical school and residency. The culture is often don't complain and don't take time off. Don't take care of yourself, because by doing that, you're going to inconvenience your teammates. And so I had all these symptoms that were developing, and I really didn't complain, and I didn't want to do anything about it. Not because I didn't want to be better, but because I didn't want to mess my team up and be the bad guy. So I know, Tracy, you're rolling your eyes, but like, that's the culture.
I
And
know it's
so
bad.
it's really bad culture. And so I did go to acupuncture on my sort of weekend off or something. Once every 2 months I would go, and it helped. But so I got progressively worse through my 20s. And then I became an OBGYN attending. And I just, part of the problem is when you feel like crap, you just think that's the way it is. Cause it's not like a light switch just flicked. It wasn't like I woke up on Monday, I had felt amazing on Sunday. It's like this slow deterioration that occurs week over week, month over month, year over year. So when you look back 10 years, you go, God, I used to have a lot more energy.
Mm.
I used to have a lot more reserve. I used to not be so thrown off by stress. But because that progression is so erosive, so slowly erosive, you can miss it. And I missed it. So the problem was I got to when I was 35, I could barely get out of bed, but I got out of bed because my husband was a resident and I was the chief breadwinner, and we had 2 little girls. And, I got up and went to work, but he said to me, why don't you go see my mentor? Something's not right, honey. And I was like, oh my God, I know something's not right. Like, it was just by the skin of my teeth I get through every day. Right. And he did this, what I considered to be a huge workup at the time, which now it doesn't even faze me. I'm like, that's what we do. And he looked at me and he said, you're not going to like these results. And I was like, why? Do I have diabetes? Please don't tell me I have diabetes. This is before continuous glucose monitors were on the market. So you had to stick your fingers. And I've always had this just feeling about my fingers. I don't want to stick them. And he goes, no, you don't have diabetes. You have celiac. And I went, oh, my dad has celiac. Yeah. And he went, well, it's genetic. And I was like, oh, I didn't learn that in med school. And so I got diagnosed when I was 35, and I immediately cut out gluten, which is the causative agent, and then started to untangle all of the other health things that had happened. Like you referenced Candida. Candida loves when there's chaos. It loves when there's inflammation. It loves when there's metals. There's a lot of stuff Candida loves. So Candida grows. I had other food sensitivities. I had tons of nutrient deficiencies because celiac damages the lining of the gut. And so you, instead of, if you picture like these lovely waving fronds that absorb your nutrients, mine were blunted. And celiac does that it blunts it. So you just don't have any surface area to absorb. So I worked really hard for like a long, I'm still working on it actually, because it causes this sort of, it's not scarred like, oh, you have a scar from a surgery. It's more just suboptimal function. I'm not the person who can just eat food and have great levels of nutrients. I always need extra. And that's tracking back to the celiac and the genes.
Okay. And so you have to work on repairing your gut so that your body can absorb nutrients from your food.
Yeah.
And so that you can close the junctions, right? Like talk about leaky gut.
Oh my God. So this whole thing is fascinating. So back up a step, about 30 to 40% of the population carries 1 or 2 genes for celiac, which celiac is the term for the autoimmune dysfunction that occurs when you eat gluten and have that blunting. You can have gluten sensitivity long before you get to celiac. So 30 to 40% of the population has this gene. If you have the gene, you have extra of this receptor called CXCR3. These people who name stuff, they do not have a job in marketing. Let's put it that way. So it's called CXCR3. And when you eat gluten, this receptor is less psyched. It's like, yes, it upregulates. Gluten binds and it opens up your it upregulates zonulin, which is the substance that opens the tight junctions. This was discovered by Alessio Fasano in like 2000. And I'm convinced he's going to get the Nobel Prize for it because it's such impactful research. So these tight junctions open. And what that means for you and I is that because the gut is lined by these cells that are tightly packed together, it's like they're stuck in. When you open up those junctions between them, you allow anything that's in your gut into your bloodstream. So whatever your body's dealing with, bacteria, food substances, mycotoxins, any toxins that you ingested, they all get into your bloodstream. Then your bloodstream's like, what's going on here? These are not supposed to be here. So you mount this huge immune response. It's autoimmune because you're attacking, and a lot of these things look like the rest of your body. So you start to develop these inflammatory pathways and often autoimmune pathways. So by now I've completely forgotten your question initially, but oh yes. So basically, if you're someone who has the gene and you eat gluten, you're opening your tight junctions for up to 4 hours at each time you eat it. So it's worthwhile doing your genes, because if you don't have the genes, you don't have to worry. You open your tight junctions for like 15 minutes when you eat gluten. But 4 hours is a lot different than 15 minutes, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like much more different.
Yeah. I got a gluten sensitivity test like 10 years ago, just gluten sensitivity dual test. I can't remember the name of the lab, but that's like their specialty. And essentially they said, and I had no symptoms. Anything over 10 was you were gluten sensitive. I was 178.
Oh my.
And they recommended a permanent, strict gluten-free diet.
Did they recommend testing for celiac?
Because
that would be my response. Like if you're that high, it's like, well, test for celiac before you stop gluten, largely for two reasons. One, so you understand how strict do you need to be, right? If I say to you, Tracy, you are at a high risk of developing an autoimmune disease, and when there's one, there's others.
Right.
So you really need to be strict. That's a much different game than, oh, I got this report, I probably should avoid gluten, but I'll have it here and there, and I'll have, here and there often is, 20 times a year, because there's always a birthday and a wedding and a celebration, and then there's a holiday, and then there's another holiday. So it kind of snowballs. So it's a much different game to know whether you have the genes and you're seriously at risk, or you had this problem. So I always recommend to people before, if I'm suspicious that you have celiac, I'm always testing people.
How do you test for celiac?
Super easy. It's a blood. So I do a blood test, and there's 3 autoimmune antibodies that we're testing, and I test the genes. Every once in a while, someone will be positive for celiac without the genes. It's super rare. Pretty much everyone who has celiac has one or both of those genes. I've got 2 of those genes.
Wow.
Which means every one of my kids got one of those genes.
So do they need 2, or they can have just one?
Just one. All you need is one.
And so let's go back to the whole toxicity thing.
Sure.
So I would love to learn like what types of protocols you do for things. Here's something somebody came on my show. I mean, this isn't a brand that they recommended, but it's just something I found. So I have a sauna, an infrared sauna, and I didn't know this, but somebody said, well, it's really good because when you detox in the sauna, you have all this toxins floating around in your body, and you need something to bind it to remove it. So I got these pills that are, oh my God, I don't have my glasses on, but I think they are charcoal and clay.
Yep.
Both in a pill, in a capsule.
Yeah. So I'm not sure if there's a study that's been done on that, but that makes sense from a thinking about what happens process. Like I take my niacin before I go in the sauna, partly because it causes a flush. So if I'm in the sauna, I don't care if I'm flushing, although inevitably it's while I'm drying my hair at the end of the sauna. I'm like, oh, I'm so hot.
I know, right? It's that delayed effect.
Yeah. So it's not immediate. I should probably take it like the minute I finish dinner or with dinner, because if I'm going to go in the sauna later, I'll have the hot flash in the sauna. But no, it makes sense. It honestly makes sense, because you do want to bind stuff, but the sweating itself is the detox process. So if you're doing if you're someone who said, I have a patient who said to me, I don't sweat when I go in the sauna. And I'm like, that's the kiss of death, because then you're releasing the toxins, but you're not sweating them out. So I said to her, why don't you try dry brushing before going in the sauna, opening up the pores, and the subsequent visit, she was like, it worked. I was like, thank you.
Good.
So, but if you're not sweating in the sauna, then yeah, I would say absolutely take binders. The sweating itself should do it, but it's not going to harm you, right? Anytime you're going to increase your binding, it's never going to harm you. Might make you react.
No, so far so good.
Yeah.
I'm pretty healthy. I'm so far, I'm 56 and I don't have anything that I know of.
Yeah. I mean, the sauna, huge help.
Yeah. I do that like 3 days a week for about anywhere between 30 and 45 minutes.
Yeah. It's great. Huge impact.
So let's talk about like with the heavy metals. Cause I feel like, I got my silver fillings removed a long time ago.
Yeah.
But I don't feel like my doctor did it correctly.
Yeah.
So if you could touch on that to help the listeners realize the difference between removing the amalgams healthfully or, safely or not. Yeah. And then what do you do about it? Like I take zeolite spray. Have you heard of that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I love zeolite. We actually have it in a product that we use for glyphosate and other binding. So, okay. So I've had my mercury fillings taken out both ways just because, ignorance is bliss. I didn't know what I didn't know. So
yeah,
a typical dentist will just take the fillings out, meaning they don't prevent any of the pieces from going down your throat where you would then ingest it. They don't prevent you from inhaling it. They don't irrigate extra. They're just taking it out. So in that you get a huge bolus of exposure, sort of big tsunami of exposure. And then I went to a biologic dentist, and it's funny, Tracy, I was actually someone who I didn't want to get my mercury fillings taken out because I felt that it was so disruptive. And I was like, I don't want to do it. They're 40 years old. They've been in my body for over 40 years. And so I said to her, how bad is this really? And that's when she was basically told me that I was stupid without saying you're stupid. She goes, well, they're 50% mercury. They continue to off gas forever. Anytime you eat anything warm or hot or chew your food or brush your teeth, you're releasing mercury into your body. And I was like, oh. So I said to her, okay, we'll get them out. So what the biologic dentists do is, mine was amazing. What she did was she isolated the tooth, first of all, and then essentially put a plastic dam around the rest of it so that anything that kind of flicked out went into this plastic dam. She gave me high dose oxygen so that anything I breathed can help, because high dose oxygen can help. Then she irrigated constantly. I was draped. So I had a thing over my head, the surgical caps on. I had my face covered. She covered me. So she had a little surgical window like this, and the rest of me was draped. It's a little bit weird. I was like, I'm just going to breathe deeply here, because it was kind of panicky to be underneath all this stuff.
Yeah.
My whole body was draped. She was draped. She looked like she was wearing a hazmat mask because it was like a weird rebreather. So she did this. And then I have these holes in my mouth, and everything gets taken off and cleaned off. So she changes everything out, and then she fills the cavity, the hole. So it's really a process to do this. And yeah, so I think, I would highly recommend A, going to a biologic dentist, and B, getting it taken out, because it continues to impact you. And I've really had a hard time getting rid of the mercury.
And you know what? Here's a not fun fact, but a disturbing fact. So I used to work in the dental industry. And did you know that for a patient that's like low income on like Medicare or whatever, their insurance will only pay for an amalgam filling, not a composite.
No.
So the rules that they will pay for basically will conduct or determine their level of care. It's the insurance companies, as I'm sure you know, as a functional doctor, most patients want to get whatever their insurance covers, and the healthy or options insurance typically won't cover for some weird reason.
Oh my God, that's terrible. Like terrible.
At least it used to be that way. I don't know if it's that way anymore, but still. So we're basically putting poison. Like, why are they still using that crap? I don't get it.
There are occasionally cavities that are so big they have to use it because the composite won't do it. But my response is, we'll put a crown on. Like, just seal the tooth off. Don't do that.
Yeah.
but it is, I didn't realize that. I mean, I know for us, we take insurance and we work on, we kind of guide it by what's insurance going to cover. Let's see if we can fall. You know, my mom always says, if you can't be with the one you love the one you're with. So we're like, okay, we're going to try to fall in love with these tests because they give you good data and they're covered.
Oh,
So the
that's
financial burden
smart.
isn't as terrible. And they're good tests. I mean, we wouldn't use them if they were bad. So
I have to tell you, I've talked to a lot of functional medicine doctors, and you're the first one who's ever said that. So I applaud you.
oh, wow.
Mhm.
Thank you. But I mean, that's just common sense, right? Like, let's try to, we use Genova, which takes insurance, and most insurances have some coverage for that. So
Mm.
I think it's a fantastic company. So, I mean, a lot of what we use ends up being covered. And then there's stuff flat out. I'm like, this is not covered no matter what I do.
Mhm. Yeah. And that's just the way it is. I mean,
Yeah.
I just had a hormone test. It was a saliva test and it's not covered, but I don't
Mhm.
care. I mean, it wasn't expensive.
Right. Genova
Um,
does have them. That's covered. You have a copay. It's like $180 copay,
mhm.
but then it's a $2,000 test. So that gets it covered
Yeah,
pretty well.
that's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
So go back to your story, and where I'd kind of like to go from here is what you did to take care of yourself, and what do you feel like um is the most common thing that you want people to be aware of so that they're not going to continue to be a dirty girl. They probably already are,
Yeah.
but
Everyone's a dirty girl, right? So there's so many layers to this, Tracy. So when you're talking about toxins, like what I did to take care of myself with toxins.
yeah, or anything. I mean, like, what are some things that you've learned along the way that inspired you to even write the book?
I mean, we wrote this book because I recognized how impactful it had been on my health and how dirty I was, and how dirty everyone else must be, given that we all live on the earth. So what I've taken the opportunity from this is to look at what are the things that I'll call the foundational things. So you have to detox. We'll come back to what I mean by detox, but detox doesn't occur when the lion's about to eat you. You know, if you're going to be
When you're
eaten by a
stressed.
lion, your whole system is shut down. So your digestion shut down, your liver detox processes are shut down, your adrenals are focusing on adrenaline, fight or freeze. And they say to the team, guys, no. We're not doing any of that. We're going to focus on survival, because if we don't survive, who cares if we detox?
Yeah.
So even though people are like, oh, it's just my stupid boyfriend or my dumb job, or I have a terrible boss or this or that. I'm like, yeah, I get it. But your body interprets it. Even if your brain interprets it one way, your body interprets it very primitive. And so we get put back into these very primitive cycles of fight, flight, or freeze. So foundational work is key. And what I mean by that is don't eat crap. Right? Don't only put amazing food into your body. Alcohol and sugar and artificial flavors are honestly the Antichrist. They are not good for you. They will make you sick. Don't do them. Tobacco also falls in that category. If you're going to do marijuana, don't smoke it, because you get the same chemicals that you get from smoking, but you can tincture or edible as long as it's an organic source. Those are, or vape. Vape doesn't get you the chemicals. So those three ways are much better for marijuana if you're going to use it. Otherwise, don't smoke it because it's bad for your lungs. And then things like make sure you get enough sleep, make sure you manage your stress, move your body so that you're sweating regularly. Make sure your relationships are intact. And what I mean by that is if you're in a relationship, do everything you can to fix it if it's not where you want it to be. But if you can't fix it, get out. Those are the only two options. Do everything you can so that your conscience is clear. And then if you cannot fix your marriage or significant relationship, whatever that is, get out, because the toxic impact of it is so great on your health. Those are the foundations. If you've done those, then you move on to, okay, how can I decrease my exposure to ongoing things? So for women, if you're going to put it on your body or in your body, make sure it's organic. On your body, go to EWG or Think Dirty and make sure that it's a clean product, because phthalates are terrible for you. And we slather them on our bodies and they're in all our beauty products. If you have beauty products from another country, they may not have the same standards for cleanliness, and those can be contaminated with metals and other toxins. So don't put them on your body. And then level up on your furniture, on your bedding, because those have flame retardants, and make sure that your water doesn't have chlorine in it, and don't use chlorine on your towels. Even though it smells really nice and it kills off mold, it disrupts your body. So
Oh, okay. I'm guilty of that one. So what do you use to wash your towels?
Vinegar.
White vinegar?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Oh, crap.
And Whole Foods has a whitening agent that is not bleach. It's like sodium. So you can use that instead. So yeah, it's everywhere. Honestly, Tracy, when I start to get into this, I'm like, oh, geez, what are you cleaning your house with? Are you burning any essential oils? Essential oils are fine, but if you're burning anything that has artificial products in it, it's likely that it has some type of harmful chemical in it. Don't spray your lawn. I know everybody loves their nice green lawn. And I said to some of you, really high levels of glyphosate. What does your landscaper use? And they said to me, we don't have a landscaper. It's the patient's father. And I said, does he spray something? She goes, yeah. I said, well, ask him if he loves his daughter or his green yard better. And the mother was in on the call. She goes, oh, he definitely loves his green yard better than his daughter.
But isn't glyphosate weed killer? It's not. Yeah. It's not fertilizer, it's weed killer, right?
It's weed killers, but people spray it on. Sorry if I use the word fertilizer, it's weed killer. People spray it on their yard so they have a nice monoculture green yard.
Oh, so they get rid of the weeds.
Yeah.
Okay.
Weeds. Sorry if I use the wrong word. Yeah, get rid of the weeds. But you're walking on your yard. You hang out in your yard.
Yeah.
You're breathing it in. Non-organic food is sprayed with glyphosate. I just looked up these stats today, actually. In 2007, we used 82,000 tons of glyphosate in the agricultural world. 82,000 tons is like 160 million pounds or 1.6. I can never do this math on the fly. And then by 2014, we were up to 142,000 pounds of glyphosate in our food supply, in the agricultural food supply. So we're eating this.
No wonder people are sick.
Yes, it disrupts your microbiome. It's directly, some things you can't draw a direct line between, but you can draw a direct line between glyphosate and certain cancers. You can direct line. So eat organic. So you had asked a question about like, what do people do? So first do the basics, the foundational work, and then start to peel it off. Question everything. I am constantly tripped up by stuff I've used for years that I'm like, oh, this isn't, oh, it is. like my mom, I grew up with Simple Green. I thought Simple Green was clean, honestly. And it didn't even occur to me until one day I went, oh my God, I was greenwashed. Simple Green is not clean. It's bright green, for God's sake. But these are the types of things like question everything because you get tripped.
What brand of cleaning products do you like?
I love Aspen Clean. Now, I have the brain space of a 2-year-old. So I love Aspen Clean. It's EWG certified. They have everything from window cleaner to floor cleaner to general cleaner to bathroom cleaner. They have laundry detergent and dishwasher detergent. So it's all in one, which I love. And I put it on auto ship, which has been amazing until I forgot to cancel the auto ship. So now we have double. That was a little bit of a breakdown, but they're amazing.
Okay, so I'll check those out.
Aspen Clean. Yeah, they're fantastic. So that's my favorite kind of taking care of your house thing. And then if you look at your furniture and you go, oh, I got to clean my furniture. Well, often the chemicals they're using are super toxic. So find one that's only using like hot steam, essentially. Okay. And then here's my favorite one, Tracy. Don't pump your own gas. Right? Never would have occurred to me, but I was super high for the gasoline additive derivatives. And I was like, how would I get that? And I was like, oh, I pump my own gas. Stand there and I'm like, oh, such a great smell. No, bad. Let someone else do it. Or, I mean, we're going to switch to an electric car when we switch the car out, but there's just all these ways that we're exposed. Mattresses have flame retardants in them. I know I could go on. Please feel free to stop me at any point.
The scary thing is it's like, God, what do you do? Like we have to have our hardwood floors refinished.
Yes.
They're down to the bare bones. And I
Okay.
know that there's chemicals. And so my guy's like, do you want the oil finish or the water? I said, well, water, because I'm thinking, you know, oh, water solvent or oil solvent. I said, water. He's like, oh, good, because then it doesn't have that smell.
Great.
So
I don't have a recommendation for that specifically. I do know that there's a company up in Vermont that it's called Vermont Natural Vermont Natural Coatings, and they have a non-toxic whey-based finish that we used on our outdoor chicken coop, and it's held up for 2 years. We're entering our second year now, and it looks great. Actually, I was thinking, do we need to redo that? And I'm not sure we do yet. We're going to use it on our dining table, our outdoor. We bought a teak table, and I was like, I don't really want a gray table and have it crack. We'll finish that. You know, we'll seal it. And we did inside. We did our floor, our stairs with it. So they have an outdoor and an indoor product. So it's Vermont
what's
Natural
it called?
Coatings. Vermont Natural Coatings, and they have. I don't know if they would do, you know, your whole floor. I'm not sure. But they're worth a call. They're so great. It's a small company, right? So I called them and I'm like, dude, what do I need? And I had a whole conversation with them. And I was finally like, okay, you're my new best friend. They told me where to find it. They'll ship it out. I mean, they were just fantastic.
Oh gosh, I'm so excited because I need to have all this stuff done. And the other thing is sooner or later, I need to redo the carpet, but I know that the glue that they put carpet down with is crap. And it's like,
go to, okay, here's another resource, Tracy. There's a company called greenbuildingsupplies.com. And they have, I think that the people who founded it, they sort of allude to that someone was really sick with all kinds of chemical sensitivities and autoimmune stuff. And so they started this company that's all about clean, green building things. So you can get everything from them.
Oh, you rock, girl. I'm so excited.
Oh, by the way, Tracy, we have a free gift for your listeners, and you should get it too, because it's a guide, and it goes over, you know, what are all the ways to clean up your life. It's the non-toxic living guide. And this is what we talk about, is all the different things, like what pans are you going to use? You know, nobody thinks about their pans, and until they're like, oh, I need a pan, but I'll just get this one. You know, my mother-in-law showed up with a pan. I was like, we're not cooking on that. That's not a clean pan.
Yeah.
So it takes a lot. So the guide is actually at our website called 5journeys.com/promo. You just put your email in and we'll send you out the PDF. And it's all linked too. So you can just click on it and go right to, like, I just ordered Scan Pans, which is my favorite brand of pans. It's a Scandinavian company and it's super clean. So I ordered that. So it gives you all that information, and you can put that in the show notes for people, because it can be really overwhelming, right? Like, where am I going to start?
So 5FIVE.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, spelled out.
Okay. That's awesome. Yeah. You know, it's like, remember, and like non-stick was so popular and still people are buying it, but do you know the warning label that DuPont had on their pans about the canary?
Yeah, it's bad.
It's bad. So for the listeners that don't know, when DuPont came out, they had a warning on their pans that if you had a small bird in the kitchen, make sure that you remove them while cooking on these pans. So use common sense. That's the old canary in the coal mine, right? If they're toxic to the bird, what is cooking on those pans over and over doing to you?
Yes. Yes. And that's why it blew my mind when the biologic dentist said to me, when we take those mercury fillings out of your mouth, we can't throw them in trash. They're hazard waste.
Yeah.
The minute they come out of your body, they're hazard waste. And I was like, wait, but it's in my mouth. How can that be hazard waste in my mouth? It is. It is. So it's really question everything and slow down, right? Because we're moving so fast. And I usually get tripped up when I'm going too fast. And I'm like, I get greenwashed all the time. You know, I'm like, oh, that's so pretty. That's like such a great product. And look at the packaging. I need that product, right? Then you buy it and I get it home and I go, oh, booger, I never looked up on EWG or Think Dirty. I never looked it up. And then I look it up and it's like a 6 and 1 is good, 10 is bad. So My rule is if it's a 4 or higher, I don't buy it. So, it's like you get greenwashed. So you have to slow down and look up these products and think about what you're putting on your body and get committed to, you're not going to do this. And the reason it matters is if you stop buying things, companies will stop making them.
Mm-hmm.
Vote with your feet.
Yeah. And go with the small companies. Do not buy products from the big companies. I'm just going to say that without saying why, but please just know from a global perspective, support the small businesses.
Yeah.
Super, super important. That's what I always think. So I have a few more questions.
Sure.
So do you work with people online or do they need to come to your clinic?
Well, if you want an IV, you have to come in. Although if you live in the Boston area, we can get you an IV. So we do telemedicine. I mean, COVID has really made a tremendous impact on the way that we can provide care for people. So we do telemedicine, we accept insurance. If you want certain things, you have to come on site, but we can do medical visits, we can do nutrition visits. We can't do IVs. That's the sort of only thing we can't do.
We have this cute little place. It's about a half an hour from me, but they have like this happy hour where they do like nutritional IVs and stuff.
Nice.
And one day I was walking by and I saw it and I'm like, that's interesting. So I just popped in and they said the first one's free. So I can't remember. I did like an energy one or something.
Yeah.
But anyway, so what would you like to tell the audience for like next steps? Or, I mean, where can they find your book? What's the next step from this?
Sure. Our book is on Amazon and our website. On our website, it's clear that you're getting our book. If you go to Amazon, I would recommend adding something in addition to Dirty Girl, because if you only type Dirty Girl, you probably won't get my book. You're just like thinking it through. When I search incognito on Amazon, Dirty Girl, I don't get the book. So you have to put in Dirty Girl Detox book or Dirty Girl Trubow. So put that in. And then the thing that I think is really important for people is to start with the basics, right? I always say to people, enjoy reading the book, because it freaks people out. It's like, whoa, there's a lot to do to clean up. It's really can feel kind of overwhelming. And so I say to people, slow it down. Rome wasn't built in a day. You're not going to be either. Go slow, focus on, always double down on the basics. Eat well, sleep, move your body, don't be a stress ball, and have good relationships. Do those 5 things every day. Take care of your heart, take care of your soul, be kind to others. Do those things. That's the foundation. If you've mastered that, I want to know you because I'm super jealous. Master the basics, the foundation, and then start to systematically peel stuff off. And when I say systematically, I don't mean you need to make a spreadsheet. I mean, you need to see what you're running out of or what you're about to buy. And then before you buy it, go to environmentalworkinggroup.org, EWG.org, and look for the best option. Level up as you're running out. Oh, I'm replacing my mascara this week or this month. Cool. Let's level up. Foundation. My favorite company is Beauty Counter for anything on the skin. So use a company that you've, I've done the research, so you can just take mine, take that information, but use EWG as your resource guide so that you systematically, one by one, level up. And if you think about how many things you buy in the course of a year, at the end of a year, it is a huge valley of things, of distance that you've traversed. If you make a change 1 to 2 times a week, that is a tremendous impact on your life. Go one thing at a time.
Yeah, compound effect,
Yeah. And be nice to yourself, right? Because look, I can't even tell you how many times I've screwed it up. I screw things up all the time and I go, oops. And it happens. So just get it, move on, and be nice to yourself. Because again, that goes back to the foundations of protect your heart. Because if you're mean to yourself, that sets off your adrenal fight or flight cascade. So it matters how you talk to yourself. So be nice to yourself. You made a mistake, don't do it again. That's it, move on.
Yeah. Love yourself first.
Yeah.
I mean, I can go down a rabbit trail on that one. It's like just taking care of your inner child. I mean, otherwise she's going to knock on your door all the time and demand it, So, and then where can people find you, Wendie?
Lots of places. So our website is 5journeys.com. We have a company Instagram, which is 5 Journeys Health, and that's the number 5, kind of weird because everything else is spelled out. And then my personal sites, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn are all Wendie Trubow, MD. So all of them. And my first name is Wendie Trubow, MD. So my first name is spelled differently. I guess my last name is not spelled that normally either. So it'll be in the show notes, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But it is. I mean, it's phonetic to me, Trubow. I mean, that's good. So yeah, we'll definitely have all the links in the show notes page. And then they can go like me and grab that free gift because it's so much easier when you can just, I mean, like you were talking and I'm like, okay, I got to make sure I get these names down so I can do my research later. Right.
Yeah. I'm sorry. It took me like three note takings in before I went, right, there's the guide. People should just get the guide. It makes it all easy. I mean, my team and I have spent hours on this because this is what we do, right? So that's why we were like, whoa, this is the companion non-toxic living guide, goes with the book.
Yeah, for sure. I love it. I'm going to get it. Okay. And then last question is, if somebody wants to make an appointment with you to do their blood work or something like that, do they just go to your website or call your office?
Website. Either way, what we do is we book a discovery call to see if it's the right match for you, because we want you to be happy. And if you're not happy, then we don't want to waste your time or your money. So you talk to my team, make sure it's a good match, and they'll schedule you.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. I love it. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. You're an absolute doll, and I can't wait to read your book and, just improve my own health, because I'm a health seeker, always trying to get a little bit better. And you taught me some things that I think I knew about the bleach, but I just didn't want to know.
Yeah, ignorance is bliss, Tracy. Knowledge is power, ignorance is bliss. And you only hear things when you're ready for them. That's what I really believe.
Yeah, I just love bleaching my towels.
I love that smell. I miss that smell.
Yeah, but you know what? I do know that if you take bleach, like say, oh, there's another thing I wanted to tell you about. Like, about fluoride, right?
Yep.
Okay. Since we were talking about dental stuff. So a friend of mine sells these water purifiers, and she lives in town. I live out in the country. So she was showing me that town water has, what is it? Bleach in it, but it's chlorine, right? To clean it. So she did this test. She just poured tap water in a glass, and then she put these drops that showed that there was bleach in it. And then she did another thing. She put another glass of tap water, said, take your finger and swirl it around. Okay. And then she put the drops in, no bleach or no chlorine or whatever. So what does that tell you? In that quick little swirl, all of the chemicals from the city water absorbed into your skin.
Great. You need reverse osmosis to get rid of perchlorate, by the way.
Oh, no, I'm just saying for your shower. We need to get filters on our shower head.
Yeah, you need a reverse osmosis to get it off your shower head. That's how you get it out. It's pretty creepy. It's at least when we called all the water, we got a whole house filter, and they were like, if you want to do perchlorate to get it out, you have to do a reverse osmosis filter. And they don't make those for the house. It's always point of use. So you can do it on your shower, your drink, your bath, wherever you're actually going to immerse yourself in water.
Yeah. I just learned that one. I'm like, crap, man, it's just everywhere. But I live in the country, so I have well water. Our water's been tested. It's good.
Yeah, good.
So, anyway, well, I'm so excited to have you come on, and I actually haven't had blood work done in a few years. So I will be calling your office and get some done. I don't want to go to my old doctor anymore. But I'll check it out, because I want to get I need to be at the top of my game. Right. So
we all do. I think as women, we have so much on our plate. We all need to be at the top of our game. Really.
Yeah. For sure. Well, thank you so much, Wendie. I will be in touch.
Thank you, Tracy. Great to talk to you.
You too. Okay, you guys, I hope you enjoyed that conversation just as much as I did. It was super fun and enlightening. And, here's the thing. I always say, just do baby steps. Pick one thing and work on changing that and improving that, and it will help you so much. So also, for complete show notes, head on over to highenergygirl.com/show. And don't forget to grab her free gift at her website, which is 5journeys.com, and make it a great day. This podcast contains the opinion and thoughts of its host and guests. It is intended to provide helpful and informative material on the subjects covered. All statements made on the podcast have not been evaluated by the FDA and are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent disease. If the listener requires professional assistance or advice, please contact your personal medical doctor. Both host and guest specifically disclaim any responsibility for any liability, loss, or risk, personal or otherwise, which is incurred as a consequence directly or indirectly of the use and application of any of the contents of these episodes. Like I said, this is my opinion and I could be wrong.